Should I start?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Being the Ideal MUN Delegate. My name is Neha Varadharajan, and I'm presenting the 13th session for the MUN Impact Global Summit. A little bit about me. My name is Neha Varadharajan. I live in India. I study in high school, and I'm 13 years old. I love to write and speak, and I've done 2 years of MUN, but it feels like a much longer time. I'm a debate lover. I won public speaking awards, and apart from that, I like to dance, I like to sing, and most important of all, I'm talking enthusiast. So let's get cracking. So this is the flow of the workshop we'll be following. I'm going to start with what is UN and MUN for beginners. I'm going to go into the clear definition to common MUN terminologies because people get confused, and 3 rules to succeed in conferences, which I specially designed. The golden rule, which helps me to succeed in conferences, a broader meaning to MUN, and that will be the end. So we'll have activities in between, and all the workshop modules are organized according to personal experience and reading of resources. I'm going to start with what the United Nations is. This is a dictionary meaning on the screen, but just to get you clear, the United Nations is an intergovernmental organization maintaining international peace and security, to develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and it is a center for harmonizing international actions. It is the largest and most familiar intergovernmental organization in the world. It has headquarters in New York City, and other offices are in Geneva, Nairobi, Vienna, and The Hague. Now from this, it should be pretty clear what MUN is. MUN, or Model United Nations, is a simulation of the United Nations. It is a diplomatic competition at school or college level, which hones public speaking, problem solving, diplomatic skills. It is a great extracurricular activity for people who are looking for one, and it is the ideal extracurricular activity for people who love to speak and collaborate, and even those willing to learn. There are formats to MUNs. There are 3 main formats that every conference in the world follows. And those include the UN for MUN, the THI MUN, and the North American format. This workshop will focus on the UN for MUN and THI MUN format because I'm not so used to the North American format. These procedures have some points in common, and every MUN delegate must be familiar with them. I'm going to clear the definitions of these terminologies. So maybe it'd be tricky to decipher and clear meanings. I'll be giving you. I'm going to give you the correct and precise meanings for terms in each procedure, which is commonly used. And like I said, it's not accurate to North American formats. Weeks and months before the conference, you'll be given a country assignment and committee assignment. You will have to be prepared weeks and even months in advance because you have to research on your country and your committee before presenting it at the conference. Try to know it as early as possible since you need to research a lot before the actual conference. And it is usually provided a long time ago. And a position paper or policy statement is a paper of 1 to 2 pages, and it states your country's stance and views on the topic. Just to show you how it looks like, it has the country's stances and what the country has done, past international actions, and kind of call to action for all member state delegates to cooperate in measures to solve the given agenda. Yeah. So you write that after your research. And who are you in a conference? If you are a member state representative of one of the 193 member states of the United Nations, you are a delegate of that particular conference. And if you're looking at a person who is like moderating the committee, maintaining decorum, calling upon delegates to raise motions, keeping time of all the speeches. That person is the chair of the committee or director. It depends on conference to conference. Sorry. And during the committee, here's what will happen. Opening speeches or the general speakers list will be the first speech of each delegate, usually prior to the start of committee proceedings. It will usually be your first speech. And I have experienced opening speeches in the alphabetical order of countries, but it may be different according to what a conference suggests. Moderated caucus or the formal informal session is the debate that takes place during the time, and you will be recognized by the chair. It'll be a particular debate topic to discuss upon. So you will raise a motion if you want to go into moderated caucus. You have to specify total time and individual speaker time. For example, you can say the delegate wishes to raise a motion to discuss UNHRC. So you are in the UNHRC committee, for example. So you want to discuss human rights in Palestine. The delegate of Saudi Arabia wishes to raise a motion to discuss Palestine rights for a total time of 20 minutes and individual speaker time 1 minute. You can vary this according to your needs. Unmoderated caucus or the informal session is where the delegates are free to walk around the room and form blocks or teams with their allies to draft resolutions. Speaking of resolutions, there are solutions to the proposed agenda in the UN format. Here is how it looks like. It may be lengthy for the actual UN, but here is how a regular MUN resolution looks like. Yeah. So you have the forum, the question, the agenda, you call upon the General Assembly, and you first discuss the problems in preambulatory clauses, and then you go into the operative clauses, which discuss the solutions. You form this with your block, and then after it's voted upon, it will be accepted as a resolution passed by that particular committee. After quorum is reached, actually, and speaking of quorum, it's the minimum votes required for decisions like raising motions and voting upon a resolution. You require usually 1/3 of present delegates to vote for that particular motion or resolution. I'm sorry. So here's a think tank question. There'll be 2 think tanks in this workshop just to make you guys interact. So this think tank's question is, we are not developing nations, we are not developed nations, we are the United Nations. What do you think of this statement? So you can just raise your hand and the admins will recognize you.
Jane E., you're next.
Yeah, hi. I think it means that we're united, so we have to work together and find the solutions together. And we're not differencing between developing nations and developed nations. All of them just have to work together to achieve the goals.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, Anita O.
I just think that the statement as a whole is very positive as it mentions being a united nation, but disregarding the fact that we have developing nations and more developed nations kind of defeats the point, because if we want to be united, we kind of all have to be on the same level. So if we're only working to achieve the goals, make sure that we are on the same level, but making sure that we actually do acknowledge the fact that some nations need more help than others is important.
Great, thanks. One more participant, please.
Next, Ali Hasnain.
Well, I think that that it means being united in any form, and the P5 countries which are already at very developed nations, which basically run the whole UN.
Okay, great, thanks. That was interesting. I'm gonna stop here for now because I have a lot more to discuss, but you can Share your views in the chat if you want. Moving on. I have crafted 3 rules, like I said. The first rule is research well. Like I said, months and weeks in advance if possible, to feel confident and psyched to debate the issue at hand. Here are the 3 C's you need to research, the 3 main C's. The first C is the country. Know about your country, print, save as much information as possible, whatever works for you. And I suggest making a country profile, use accurate sources. Here are broad topics like defense, environment, culture, economy, heritage, and international relations. Like I said, you have to form blocks to draft a resolution. So you must know your foreign policies, which are also called the international relations for each country. You have to subcategorize your fellow countries in 3 main categories: allies, enemies maybe, and no embassies in that country or something. So you have to classify that into 3 groups, so you know whom to form blocks with. The second C is committee. You have to research what your committee does, what issues it focuses on. So for example, the United Nations Human Rights Council discusses human rights around the world, and there is a primary agenda which your conference would choose. So for example, in the UN HRC committee, your agenda is discussing human rights in Palestine and other Arab territories. So that can vary from conference to conference, of course. The third C is conference. This is a mistake many delegates make because they research only the 2 C's, but knowing about a conference is very important. Why? Because you have to know the awards policy, you have to know your conference. Is it big or small? Is it lenient with procedures or kind of like really strict with them? Is it international or is it local? So knowing these will make you feel confident, making you know what will actually happen in that conference and how the conference works. You need to remember that. So there are some resources I made for you for Rule 1. BestDelegate.com has a wide array of resources, including country and committee research guides, everything about MUN basically. So you just go to bestdelegate.com and you'll find everything you need. MUN Impact is a great go-to for SDG-based conferences, and even if you want to know something about the SDGs, it provides home courses and debates free of charge, so you can train under them. It's maximum exposure. The UN website is your best friend, and I mean it. You can find anything on the UN website, like about your country or maybe your committee, or news articles, formal resolutions, voting records, etc. For country research, I prefer the CIA World Factbook. These are websites. You can just search them on the net after this workshop. And the BBC country profiles, and there's also one called the IMUNA country profiles. These are the most accurate and reliable. You can get a ton of information from these. You run searches in Google and Yahoo News to be updated with your country and committee issues, because that is very important. You do not want to go to a conference remembering 2011's issues and what happened in 2020. I don't know. So that's not possible for you to succeed in a committee. Academic papers are very detailed, I know, but skimming through them is helpful because they have certain ideas, and you can run searches in Google Scholar if you want. And I do not recommend this. I repeat, I do not recommend this. But for last-minute research, print out Wikipedia pages. These are community-run websites, so the information may not be accurate. But for seamless conference experience, please follow the resources I mentioned earlier. And you can find all sorts of articles on the web to help you. And finally, read. Printing out information or looking for information is not sufficient, and this is very important. Skim your research, read your research, have an understanding of what you've printed out or saved, whatever, and know enough to represent the country and debate the issue. And then comes Rule 2, which is learning to speak and write fluently. This is very important because if you research and do not know how to represent your research, that is actually a very kind of embarrassing thing, and it's not a seamless conference experience idea. You have to master the art of public speaking. You want to appear confident, make sure what you're speaking, use hand gestures, and if you're called to the front of the room upon recognition, walk on the podium to explain your speeches and anything in general. And here's a golden tip. If you do not remember your research amidst a speech, and that's a big mistake, you should keep notes with you. You can make it up a few times, but it should be approximate to the statistics if it proved your point. Then you require fluency in English, of course, because literally all of the conferences are in English. Take classes, participate in speech contests, whatever works for you. Resolutions require operative and preambulatory clauses. If you saw before in the document, some words were italicized, so those are the preambulatory and operative clauses. I'll show you a list later on. And here's a tip I always inculcate. You have to imagine you're alone and have a good time talking to yourself, because this is for nervous first timers, second timers, and timers, actually, because you are allowed to be nervous. And speak like your life depends on it, and be a charming and confident delegate in the room, and try to convince others you're a good delegate, or just be true to yourself. And some resources for you to include. WiseMe is a good for a list of resolution clauses, like the preambulatory and operative italicized clauses. So just a second. So I just included this WiseMe. This list is from WiseMe, but you can just log on to that website. It's normally, so there's the preambulatory and there's the operative. It should always be italicized. And add your solutions after that in the correct grammar. Yeah. So if you are not confident about your public speaking, you can listen to speakers and watch how they speak, or take speaking courses online. Audit the course for free or earn your certificate, whatever works for you. You can look up previous opening speeches, debates, and past resolutions on the UN website, like I said, but please don't plagiarize. This is something that delegates think they can do, but actually cannot. Even if you're representing a country, you should be original in the conference. So try to read and explain ideas in your own words, and don't plagiarize. And rule 3 is be courteous and presentable. This is very important. If you want to be a good delegate, you always have to have etiquette and presentation. Treat other delegates as equal, respect opinions while, lobbying or forming blocks. Greet your chairs while entering, thank them for leaving, because why not? Sign fellow delegates' placards if they ask for it, make friends with them. And it is not necessary that you make friends with your allies. You can make friends with enemies, because that's interesting too. Note passing requires respect too. Be courteous, write neatly, and be organized. This is very important. Keep your research binder, computers, stationery, and essentials in designated places of your seat. You do not want to lose your notes before a speech. Keep a note receiving station if you want. Wear appropriate attire. Western business attire is always preferred. You do not want to wear a t-shirt and jeans and come to the conference, please. Walk confidently, stand and sit tall. Own the room. This sentence just speaks for itself. Own the room. And this is the ultimate golden tip, which I personally find really helpful, and I hope you will too. Even if MUN is a vast community and topic, one golden tip must be remembered. You have to imagine that you're a real UN member state representative. This is why, because if you imagine yourself as a high school student, maybe you'll be thinking in that level, maybe you'll be speaking at that level, maybe you'll be representing in that level. Try to imagine yourself, simulation. Like I said, MUN is simulation. Make it 90, make it like you're the real MUN delegate, the UN delegate, I'm sorry. And just solve solutions like your life depends on it. And here is something, MUN in a broader sense. Now, why is this important? Because at the end, MUN is nothing but a place to make friends an opportunity to make your voice heard and to solve world problems. Please don't get upset if you don't win. There's always second time and there's even a third time and nth number of times. And taking part in a conference is winning enough. And being the ideal MUN delegate is what? You have to spread the awareness and help to grow the MUN community. That is what is most important after all. That will make you a true MUN delegate and the ideal one, of course. So there are a wide number of communities online you can join, or maybe offline if possible, which is not possible right now, of course, but try to have an MUN community because that makes you like a true MUN delegate. Okay, so here's the second think tank. This is actually an activity you need to keep open your browser for. So go to menti.com. So you can see this website on the screen, I hope. And then you have to use this code when you are prompted to do it. And you have to enter one word to describe MUN. Maybe there are two options, but you can do whatever you want. So go to www.menti.com. Can one of the admins please share it in the chat, the website, and the code if possible? Okay, I'm having words. That's great. Okay, wow. Tunnel with no ending. That's interesting. Oh, wow. I'm just gonna wait for 2 minutes and see all the words come in.
Neha, whilst we're waiting, just so you know that some of the delegates have asked that at the end of the presentation, if you can go back to slide, I think it's 17 or 16, because they missed some information that you had. If you could just make a note of that, please.
Yeah, I'll look into that after the presentation, maybe. Wow, guys, thank you so much. You can, keep the words coming. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I'm not gonna wait anymore for now, but you can keep the words coming. Maybe I'll share this at the end of the presentation. Actually, I've reached the end, so I'm open to questions right now. So we learned the basic MUN terminologies. We learned the 3 rules and the golden rule, of course. We had think tanks, and you learned broader meaning to MUNs. That's pretty great. If you have questions, like I said, you can type them out in the chat. I can ask you to unmute yourself. And you can communicate with me in MUN Impact on the email addresses provided on the screen. And you can feel free to ask questions and interact. Follow my Instagram or Twitter if you want. And thank you so much. I'm open to questions.
Could you put slide 17 up, please, for people whilst people are writing their questions in the chat?
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
sure. $17. Yeah, here. I hope you wanted this. Any other slide? No. Great, I think the
Admin, do you want to handle the questions for Neha, please? Maybe ask the people to ask their question.
Yeah, sure. We have member of the press team here, Anaga C. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hi, Neha. Thank you for your presentation. So my question was, what advice would you give to delegates transitioning from a small local conference to a global, larger conference? What advice would you give them when they're making that transition?
That's a great question. Thank you. It can be intimidating, of course, going from a local conference setting to a larger global conference. But you have to know that the crowd doesn't depend on how good a delegate you are. Try to be yourself, and like the tip I mentioned earlier, that have a good time talking to yourself. That can help because after all, it's just a crowd listening to you, and that doesn't change your performance. So don't feel scared and be ready to debate in MUN like you used to do in local conferences.
Thank you, Anaga, for that question. Next, we have Rika S. from the Philippines. Please unmute yourself.
More involved in the MUN if we don't have a local MUN group, not even one within our school.
Do you mean to say that you cannot find any MUNs near you?
No, we don't really support the MUN here. It's this is more just an individual initiative.
I'm sorry, I didn't really get your question. Can you type it in the chat, please?
The question is, how could she get involved in MUN if they don't have a local MUN group or anything happening at their school?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. For now, I do not know how you'll do it offline, but right now, there's a wide variety of MUN conferences that are happening online, so you can search for them. And even MUN Impact is hosting some free programs like 4-week courses ending with a debate. So you can participate in that, and when the offline conferences kind of start, you can there's an article in Best Delegate. You have an MUN tracker, like based on your location, you'll get MUNs near you. So maybe that will help. I'll find the link and share it with you if possible. Does that help?
Also,
Yeah,
apart from MUN at home that MUN Impact does, we do junior OMUN and OMUN depending on your age, and they're all free. There are lots of MUN online, but some of them you have to pay for. The MUN Impacts are all free, and if you just Google or go onto the MUN Impact website, they have a debate every month.
What do you say about Timon?
What? I'm sorry.
Can we let admin handle the questions, please?
Yeah. All right. Next, we have a question from Shashank.
Hello, Neha. Thanks for the presentation. I'm a delegate at MUN at home, and my main question was, for now we are doing an online debate type of things, but when it comes to a real face-to-face physical debate, and there are a lot of group of people, how can we control our nervousness in that crowd when we speak ourselves out?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So what happens exactly is speaking online, speaking offline may seem different, but actually it's not. I have personally experienced it myself. Offline, you're just standing face to face and communicating, and online, you're just, on a Zoom call or something. Nervousness can be difficult to handle, but you can breathe in and out, and you can, like that tip I mentioned earlier again and again, that imagine you're alone and have a good time talking to yourself, but keep in mind that don't really keep in mind that other delegates are listening to you, but maybe um, um, say it like you're practicing at home or something. That helps.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shashank, for that question. Then we have a question from Jana E. from Egypt.
Yes. Hey, Neha, thank you so much for the presentation. I really liked it. My question is, do you have any tips for finding the country issue connection when the country isn't that active? And do you have also any tips for finding speeches that the country did or something to help me with the research?
Yeah, that can actually be really difficult to research a country which is not as much active in that particular committee or at the UN as a whole. But something I suggest is searching by domain. That is a really important tip. So what you do is you research by the topic you're going to discuss in the committee. You type that out in your Google search or whatever, and then you follow it up with a site and a colon followed by the domain you want to research. So the trusted domains are .gov and .edu. So that way I usually get a lot of information for researching information for countries that are not so active in the UN. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Excuse me, I have
Next, we have Aditya H.
Really informative.
Aditya H, can you unmute yourself?
I just wanted to ask you, give people who are beginning, which could be really useful.
I'm sorry, what? Did someone, understand?
Can you repeat your question, Aditya?
So after being in a lot of conferences, what tip could you give to someone new, which could be very useful?
Okay. So if I were to give one tip, and that's just one tip, that would be the golden rule I mentioned in my presentation. Imagine you're the real UN member state representative. That usually sums up everything, because if you research what a representative actually does, you can get like that person speaks confidently, knows everything, and represents that country in a great sort of way. So that is the tip I would give to someone new.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have MLB from South Africa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you're audible.
Oh, okay. I wanted to ask, what advice would you give a person who is interested in joining the Model UN but does not have a team?
Team. Okay. So if you're talking about like MUN clubs you can join to gain exposure, that is just a thing to gain confidence and experience, and get a team who supports you. So you can join MUN clubs, but if you're not in an MUN club, I would say that it's perfectly fine, because there are even online clubs, and it's actually really an optional thing, and you really don't need a club to be a delegate at Model UN. It's just to increase your confidence.
All right, Emil, thanks for the question. Next, we have Meera Ranjan from India.
Hi. So my question was, in some committees, we are given countries that do not exactly relate to the topic and they don't play much of a role in the agenda. What can we speak and how can we take our discussion forward in those committees?
That question was actually similar to the first question I received. I mentioned the domain search, and apart from that, even if you do not find anything, you can like research the agenda in general and dig the internet deep for any information that you might find that is reliable and accurate. And you know, if you research that agenda and kind of understand it and relate it, so there's a tip: search by topic, not the committee you're representing, because searching by topic increases the chances for, you know, getting a lot of results. So for example, if you want to research human rights in Palestine and your country is Kenya, you know, you just research the topic, research the committee, research the conference, and as for your country, you can kind of, you know, search for what Kenya has done at the United Nations by searching domain search for the UN website, and then there are speeches and voting records and past resolutions. I'm sure you'll be able to find something.
I add something here, please, Neha. If you are a country which is not involved in a topic at all at a conference, the other thing to look at is what countries are involved in that particular topic, and would they be your ally or your enemy? Because maybe if you don't have much to do with that topic, you would probably vote how your allies would vote. So the other thing would be to look at the other countries who are very heavily involved in that topic and see, you know, whether that you would be on the same side as them. Okay.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Next, we have Anna T from Singapore.
Hi, sorry. I was just wondering about, some people consider MUN to be kind of a cookie cutter activity where you just kind of put it on your college apps and it seems kind of like something that's trying to impress someone. How can we take MUN a step further and show that we are really dedicated to it and it's something we're passionate about?
That's a really good question. So you do not really need to show people that you are like, you really like Model UN. That people will just get if you participate in an MUN conference with dedication and, you know, sincerity. And even if it helps for college apps, I suggest that, you know, you speak from the heart and you represent your country like a real UN official, because that helps. And you really don't need to prove to others, because they'll get it when you actually, you know, do MUN with passion.
Thank you for that question. Next, we move on to Jaylin C from Canada.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. It was great. I'm wondering, for countries in which information and research sources are limited, what should we do as delegates to make sure that everything has been thoroughly researched?
Okay, this question is again very similar to two other previous questions, like if your country is not an active participant in that particular issue, what can you do to make sure you know enough? So first thing is dig the internet deeper, try to find everything you can find, and as Nicola said, you can find out what the country's allies think of that particular you know, committee or agenda, and you can like represent that, because ally countries, like, you know, have similar views normally, so generally, you know.
There is one other option, but it's something that you have to do with time before the conference. You can't leave it to the last minute. All countries, all UN members, if you go to the UN website, their ambassador details are listed on the UN website, and they normally have contact details. Some of them don't necessarily have an email, but if you contact them with time and tell them you're representing their country in this conference, you're discussing this topic, sometimes they will get back to you and give you information of their point of view on that topic. Doesn't always work, you can't rely on that, but if you plan ahead a bit and contact them, you might get some help from them.
Yeah.
Next, we have Shirin M.
So I've been having trouble finding past resolutions. Is there a good resource, any tips for that?
You're actually really less audible. Can you like speak louder?
I've been finding it hard to find past resolutions. Is there any resources or tips you have for that?
What I do is I go on the UN website and there's a search bar. So I type in my committee, and then there's a whole other page for different agendas and committees. I normally find those after I do domain search or I search it on the UN website. And past resolutions can be found on that particular web page of that particular agenda or committee. There's a section on the left side normally.
Thank you for that question. We only have 2 more minutes.
Thank you.
So would you like to conclude the session?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say that this has been great. I hope you enjoyed this workshop just as much as I had designing it. And thank you for the great response to, my think tank activities. It has been great presenting in front of all of you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Neha, for your presentation and your tips. There were lots of questions that we haven't had time to answer. My best advice for all of you, if you're new to MUN, is actually just to get out there and attend a conference. Once you've attended your first conference, everything is a lot clearer and you will build up your confidence very quickly. Obviously, at the moment, it has to be online, but maybe that's easier because you don't get so nervous stood in front of a room of people that you don't know. But just go out there and do it. It's lots of fun and you make lots of friends. And join MUN Impact, register with us on our website. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our interpreters who have been working very hard for the Spanish speakers amongst us. And I'm now going to be closing this room down, ready for the next session. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.